Hi guys, I'm Dr. Tom Dawson, and I'd like for us to talk a little bit about RSV. RSV stands for Respiratory Syncytial Virus. It's a virus that's gotten in the news lately, even though it's largely ignored over my last 30 years of being in practice. It's one of the most common causes of the common cold, and probably a third of the children that I see, during the respiratory season, have RSV, and so it's been around forever. It's been elevated in status in the news for three reasons. One is since COVID, all illnesses and viruses in particular have become more important to the world, and people are willing to read about it. They previously found it pretty boring. The second is that there's two companies that have products to treat RSV now. One is a vaccine for pregnant women that protects their babies during their first RSV season in the winter. And the second is a synthetic antibody that can be given to babies to protect them during their first year of life against RSV during the winter. And so whenever you have companies that are making products for an illness, they're going to have more news articles about how serious that illness is, so that you'll want to buy their products. But let's think back more about RSV historically. Always been one of the most common causes of the cold. And while you'll hear the statistic quoted that it's the most common reason for a child to be hospitalized, while that's true, what it doesn't tell you is that I see hundreds of children with RSV who don't go in the hospital for every one that I end up sending to the hospital with RSV. So what it really is just such a common respiratory illness that everyone in the community gets it. So it sort of screens the community looking for those children that have sensitive lungs or perhaps mildly damaged lungs, or come from families of strong histories of asthma. Also, children that are ex-preemies or children that have been on ventilators are all more prone to have trouble with RSV during their first year, for their first year of life. So common was it for the asthmatics to end up in the hospital with RSV that some pulmonologists 30 years ago used to think that RSV caused asthma. For those of us who worked out, and the reason they thought it was that those infants that they saw in the hospital with RSV would frequently end up in their severe asthmatic clinic 4 years later as bad asthmatics. So it made sense. For those of us who worked out in the community, who saw hundreds and hundreds of children with RSV that didn't go in the hospital, and the only ones that we put in the hospital were the children from our families that had bad histories of asthma, it was more clear that that wasn't the cause, but just it's more of a screening effect. And that asthma, in fact, was more of a genetic illness because you almost always have other folks in the family with asthma when a child develops asthma. So the possibility exists, though, that RSV could be a cofactor in asthma, meaning that if you have the gene from your parents for asthma, that it requires RSV to sort of activate it and cause the symptoms to develop. Sadly, we haven't had any way to test that because for the last 1,000 years, everybody's had RSV by the time they're two. By the time you're two, 98% of children have had RSV. And so you just can't find a group of kiddos that haven't had RSV to see whether they develop asthma or not. Hopefully, if we develop a vaccine within the next few years that we can give to infants, we can prevent the infants from catching RSV, including the ones from asthmatic families. And if then those children don't develop asthma 3 or 4 years later, then we'll know that RSV was a cofactor and we'll have found a way to prevent asthma. So I certainly hope that that's true. To talk a little bit about the present weapons that we have for RSV, there's essentially two. One is a vaccine that's given to pregnant women who are going to deliver their child in the fall or winter of the following year, which is the main time of RSV season. So they get the vaccine, their body makes antibodies against RSV that go through the placenta to the baby, and then when the baby comes out, it has 6 months worth of antibodies to fight off RSV, and so it makes it through its first RSV season in the winter fairly unscathed. The other weapon is a company has made a synthetic antibody against RSV. And so just like the antibodies that went through the mom's placenta to the baby, these antibodies can be injected into the baby. They also last for about 6 months, but they can protect the baby during their first winter when RSV is most prevalent. Now, a lot of people will call this second product, a vaccine. It's not a true vaccine in the true sense of the word. A vaccine is something we give you to cause your body to make its own antibodies. This is actually just synthetic antibody that's injected. It goes into the baby and stays for about 6 months, and then it doesn't provide any further protection. But usually if you get children through their first RSV season, then we're pretty much home free. So both of these products are certainly a boon for those children that either have weakened or damaged lungs or have strong histories of asthma, and for healthy children also. Hopefully in the next few years, we'll have an RSV vaccine that can be given to infants, and then that will be better than both of these strategies. And if it shows that RSV was what was setting off people that had a genetic predisposition for asthma, then certainly that'll be a great step forward also. So I hope this helps you in how you think about and hear about RSV. I certainly don't want you losing sleep over this illness, because 99% of the children that I see with RSV just have a mild cold. So hope that helps a little.